Hey guys, it's Adam from Premium Poker Tools, and in this video I want to talk about 3-bet bluffing with hands like offsuit Broadway hands, and a lot of people recommend 3-bet bluffing with hands like King Queen off, Ace Jack off, King Jack off, Queen Jack off, maybe Ace 10 off, because these sorts of hands, first of all, they're not really strong enough to flat with a lot of the times, but people like these hands as 3-bet bluffs because they talk about how they block hands like pocket aces and ace king and ace queen, pocket queens, this kind of stuff. So they like to 3-bet bluff these hands because they say that it gives us a little bit of a boost in fold equity pre-flop because now they don't have as many ace king or pocket aces hands. Sorry, ace king or pocket aces combos. So like there's less things that they're going to continue against us with. And that's true, but I mean, when I think about this, you have to consider that let's take an opening range, okay? So this opening range comes from Ed Miller's recommendations in the course. And let's see what happens when we have an ace blocker. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to enter in for our cards that we have the ace of hearts. So they don't have as many combos of ace king. Like they started off with 16 and now they have 12, 3 and 9. So we're blocking ace king. They have 3 combos of pocket aces instead of 4. They have 12 of ace queen instead of 16. So like this is good that we're blocking these hands that our opponent is going to continue with, maybe ace jack suited, ace 10 suited. So we're doing good by blocking these hands that they're going to continue with. But here's the thing, we're also blocking all of these hands that they might fold with. So on balance, like we're blocking hands that they're going to fold with, but we're also blocking hands that they're going to call with. So you can't just say that we're blocking all these hands that they're going to continue with. You have to also think about the hands that they're going to fold with. So in this video, I want to actually go through the math of the combos and stuff and really kind of test this idea, like how important are blockers when we're 3-bet bluffing. And I'm going to try a couple ranges and see how much of a boost in fold equity do we get. So let's take this example first of all. So they're opening with this range, let's say. And I'm going to say that they're going to, when we 3-bet, I'm going to take this away. So when we 3-bet, I think that they're going to continue with this range, and that's going to be about 50%. So I think they're going to fold out these weak pocket pairs because they don't have the set mining implied odds. These weak suited aces, I think they're going to fold. Let's see, what do I have for the suited connectors? So I just have queen jack suited, so I'm going to say they're going to fold out these sort of suited connectors. These sorts of hands aren't really strong enough. So we're going to be left with this range that they're going to continue with. So you can see that's 96 out of the 190 possible combos. So that's 50.5% that they're continuing. So now let's go over what happens when we have an ace blocker. So we have an ace blocker. So now you can see that there's 183 combos that they're continuing with. And if we click this again, there were 169 possible starting combos. So 83 in 169 is 49.1%. So we are getting a boost in fold equity of 1.4%. Okay, they're continuing 1.4% less than they previously were, because we have the ace blocker. So that's not a lot. The boost is only 1%, 1.4%. And now let's even consider the situation where, like, what if they really don't like offsuit hands and they're folding ace queen off, and instead they're defending with, jack 10 through 9-8 suited. So let me go back and I'm going to say that they're folding all of this, they're folding all of this, all of this. I think it was, yeah, this was what we said that they were continuing with. And now let's say instead of ace queen off, they're going to be defending with these guys instead. So now, now we have the opposite of a boost in fold equity. Now they're defending 86 and 169 for 50.9%. So previously they were defending 50.5, now they're defending 50.9. So that's giving us less fold equity. So, I mean, that's a little bit of an extreme example. This person's folding ace queen offsuit. But I just wanted to show you that it's possible for this blocker, quote unquote, to give us less fold equity. Okay, so let's move on to another example. So here we started off assuming that they're very ace-x suited heavy, right? And that's kind of the worst case scenario for a blocker because we're blocking all these hands that they fold out. So I started with kind of the worst case scenario and we got 1.4%. Now let's say the opposite, an ace-x suited light range. So let's say that they open all their broadways and sevens plus. So a little bit of an awkward opening range if you ask me, but let's go with it and see what happens. Because now we don't have to worry about like all of these kinds of hands and all of these kinds of hands that were blocking hands that they would fold. I mean, we do block these, but let's go with it. So this is the opening range that we're going to go with. And what did I do wrong? So here I have 208 combos. Oh, that's because I have a blocker. Okay, so by default there's 208 combos in this range. And we are going to say that they continue versus the 3-bet with sevens plus, so they don't fold any pocket pairs, ace 10 suited plus, ace queen off plus, so they're folding ace jack and ace 10, jack 10 suited plus, and king jack suited, so they're folding all of this. These weaker broadways they're going to fold, and these weaker suited broadways they're going to fold, and they're just going to continue with this. So this is 104 of the 208, so 50% is a pretty standard kind of defend versus 3-bet amount. But now let's see what happens when we have that ace blocker. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click all this. So we add the ace blocker, and now we start off with 189, and when we say that these are the things that they're going to defend with, so now we're at 91 out of the 189. So that's 48.1%. So here we get a 1.9% boost in fold equity. Up here we had a 1.4% boost in fold equity. So this is kind of the ballpark that we're looking at, like 1.4, 1.9%. So it's not a huge boost. We're not getting a 5 or a 10% boost in fold equity. And now let's see what happens if we use, like, let's say we have ace jack offsuit. So this is a hand that a lot of people recommend 3-bet bluffing with. So ace jack offsuit, I won't go through it in depth, but now it's going to be 84 and 171, so 49.1%. So now our boost in fold equity is 0.9%. And that's less fold equity than we had with just the ace blocker. And I think that that's because when we have the jack, we're blocking all of these hands right here, and also this guy right here. So we're blocking all of these hands that they would fold out, and we don't want to block hands that they fold out. We want to block hands that will continue. So I think that's why we're getting less fold equity than with just the naked ace blocker. So what happens if we look at a wider range? So like, let's take Ed Miller's cutoff range, which is, let me get rid of the blockers. So it's about 22% of hands. And let's say we 3-bet, and by default they continue with all their pocket pairs, ace 9 suited plus, king queen suited through 10-9 suited, so they're getting rid of all these weak pocket pairs. King jack suited, get rid of this stuff, queen 10, get rid of the suited gappers, an ace queen off plus. So this is what we're going to say they're continuing with. So, you know, reasonable enough. That's 146 and 294. That's 49.7%. Again, the standard 50% defense. So now I'm not even going to take the time to go through this. I have it written out for you already. So when we have an ace blocker, it's going to be 132 and 267. So I'm going to write in the drop-off amounts. So that's 0.3%. With a king blocker, it's going to be negative 0.1%. So now we have less fold equity. Again, here's an example than if we didn't have a blocker. Let's look at this one. So now we have a 0.5% boost. And I'm going to italicize it. Here we have a 1.2% boost, so that's better. But again, these numbers aren't huge. We're not talking about 5-10% boost in fold equity. So I see a lot of people say that you should 3-bet bluff with these kind of blocker hands, and I mean, my results are kind of not so encouraging. So I spent some time Googling around for articles and stuff, and I didn't find that much, but here's kind of one that I want to talk about. So Split Suit is a pretty cool guy. He's got a lot of great educational content, and he has an example where, so let me actually plug this in. So in his example, we're opening 2s plus, ace 10 suited plus, or sorry, they are opening king jack suited plus, 8-7 suited plus. So all these suited connectors, and I would assume, I think I just didn't copy this in. Oh, so these weren't suited. Okay. So he's saying ace 10 and king jack like this. Okay. I did one thing wrong. Let me see. Anyway, so I'm not getting his range perfect, but you can see in his graph right here that he's saying we're opening this, and they're going to continue versus the 3-bet with this. So when they open 190 combos and they are going to continue with 62, he's saying this is 67% folding. But when we have a blocker, we have this ace blocker, ace 5 suited. Now they're going to continue 51 out of the 168 for 70%. So, I mean, this looks like a 3% boost, but when I calculated these numbers, 62 of 190 is 32.6, 51 and 168 is 30.4, and let's just plug that in. 62 in 190, 32.6, round to the nearest 1. That's what I have, 32.6, and 51 in 168, 30.4 if we round up. So, I mean, this is really a 2.2% boost. It's not really a 3% boost. So, and I've Googled around and tried to do a bunch of this, and it's really hard to get more than a 2 or 3% boost in fold equity from having blockers. So best case scenario, it's really looking like it's 2 to 3%. And then in these worst case scenarios, I mean, sometimes you have less fold equity. A lot of times it's only a fraction of a percent. So, I mean, it's possible there's something I'm missing, but I just want to do this video to maybe get a conversation started about this idea of how important are blockers when we're 3-bet bluffing. And the math that I've been doing isn't too comprehensive. I haven't tested too many ranges, but it's really seeming like typical numbers are around 1%, and the best case scenario is around 2 to 3%. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. At least I hope it was thought-provoking. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. I'll show you the contact at the bottom of Premium Poker Tools. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.